my question is about the physical aspect of yoga, which is we understand that it is a very small part, but nonetheless it is given importance to. Particularly while reading some text on Raj Yoga, I was reading that the flexibility of spine is something that is laid stress on. Now, I understand that with a lot of practice, you certainly beat yourself, but then the natural tendency of the body is something that you inherit. So somebody who has been practicing for long may not be as flexible as somebody else who is just a beginner. Now, how, I mean, it is so, though not complete, though it is not the only part of you, not the, how do I say, so though it is not complete yoga, but it is certainly an important aspect of yoga, right? It is laid stress on. So how do you kind of the capability of how one performs these postures or asanas, how do you relate it to one's stage of evolution and progress on the path of yoga?
To some extent, we'll come to it in greater detail tomorrow, no, day after tomorrow, when we talk about Hatha Yoga. But all the same, your question is essentially about physical practices, and there are two aspects to it, two or three aspects I could see. One was that not everybody's body is equally flexible, and therefore we may not be able to achieve the same level of perfection in the performance of these physical practices. That is true. And as in everything in yoga, the idea is not to achieve a certain arbitrary standard of perfection. The idea is to be able to do better than what we are already doing. So it's a path of self improvement. And anybody, irrespective of how the person's body is constituted, if the person continues doing these practices, will be able to do them better tomorrow than the person is able to do today. Tomorrow and today don't have to be taken literally. What it means is that the person will improve. Not everybody's body may become so flexible that the person can do the most difficult practices and almost looks like, as if he's made of rubber. So everybody may not be able to do that, but certainly everybody will get a body which is more flexible than it is now. So the flexibility will improve, and not everybody has to have that type of a body which looks like as if it's made of rubber. Doesn't have, it's not necessary for being healthy, or that's not the most important thing of in good health. The second thing was which you talked about, to what extent this can contribute to spiritual evolution, the physical part. Yes, I mean, if you go to the classics of Hatha Yoga, they don't talk only about the practices. In fact, the classic like Hatha Yoga Pradipika has mentioned very few physical practices. So they deal more with the spiritual aspects of yoga than with the physical. It's only later that as a distortion, the spiritual aspect came to be neglected, and there were many innovations made so far as the physical practices are concerned, and they came to occupy center stage. So that was a later development. Now, how does these physical practices help? One is through the attitude with which we do them. If we do them with the attitude that I'm doing these practices because they'll make my body more healthy, and if my body becomes more healthy, then it will become a better instrument for implementing the divine will. If one does it with that type of an attitude, yes, they will contribute. Another important thing which Sri Aurobindo has mentioned in this context is that just as mental immobility is important for improving the function of the mind, that's what meditation is about. We may call it mental immobility, which actually is a very carefully chosen word because it is not a blank mind. Sometimes we feel that if the mind is blank and we are not thinking of anything, then we are meditating. But it's more of mental immobility, which means you can't be easily disturbed. So just as mental immobility is important, physical immobility also contributes to it. That's equally, and the two go together. So if one is able to achieve that physical immobility, which in turn will supplement and will get supplemented by mental immobility, then it helps in preparing the background which will make it easier to go towards further spiritual evolution.